should be back live. Ooh, pretty fireworks. Pretty fireworks. Well, that's not me. Okay, let me... There we are. Alright. What? Chat is disabled for this live stream? I didn't disable chat. What the? Turkey book. Well, how come I can't see it? You know, try this again. It says chat is disabled. Oh, fuck off. Sorry. Fudge off. Public. Still not the right damn one. I hate YouTube. Did you hear me, YouTube? I hate you. Go ahead. Shut me down. See if I fucking care. I don't give a shit. That's still not the right damn fudge it.
In 400 yards, turn left.
No. Sorry, I can't. Too busy.
Turn left.
Talking about free roam, not online free roam, but offline free roam, and the advantages of said mode.
In 400 yards, turn right.
We get to raise people and make money. Change their drive cars to match their vehicles. So how they obviously I'm driving the van and I went driving around a little bunch of that. I don't like about Forza Horizon
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
their day-night cycle is really weird. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it's just... I'm talking, not even talking, like, to go into the festival site and come out, go in the morning time and come out at night time. Nobody, I understand that. Or it's raining, I can go out in the rain, because it's not harder.
Recalculating route. In 400 yards, turn left.
Hannah, shut up.
You have arrived at your destination.
Valley Horizon Festival. For those of you new to the game, you basically, if you played the crew before, there's always a storyline that you're supposed to follow. Like, I can't remember, the crew was like, well, at first it was, God, it's been so long since I played that game. And then they had the crew hot pursuit, whatever, police thing, which I thought was pretty damn stupid, because, I'm sorry, I didn't like it at all. But anyway, this one, basically, you're the boss, is what they call you. You're in Southeast Australia, and you're trying to set up like these Bonnaroo festivals, or, I remember back in the day we had, not Bonnaroo, but Lollapalooza. It's giving away my age a little bit right there, but anyway, so you go out and you complete certain tasks, you go on these races, you do PR stunts, and if you'll see up at the right hand side of the screen, it'll show you what tier I think you're in. No, that's how many tokens I have. That's how many credits. Credits are like dollars. And for my next showcase event, see, I have 3 of them. I have Yarra Valley, Outback, and then I have Byron Bay. 2 of them are a level 3. 1 of them is a level 2. Don't ask me what the difference is. But they're always trying to get you to do this stuff. Well, for me, as a car guy, I could care less about the festivals. What I care more about is building these cars and getting them tuned so that they are good to race and all that fun stuff. Most of my cars are semi-racing and I try to go for the challenging ones. Like when I first got the Bel Air, you know, it was really hard to beat anybody because you go around a corner and the thing would just roll over. But I've got that set up so that, you know, I can race pretty much any car within its class and get away with it. I don't know why they show my 64 Impala is not dropped or whatever. Neither is my Nova. The Chevelle is down a little bit. I was working on that earlier. Kind of want to show you guys a new car. It's going to be hard for me to find one that I haven't touched yet. This is my Lamborghini collection. We've already passed the Ferraris. Yeah, I'm a dirt rally guy. I like to play that. I haven't played it in a while though because I kind of been hung up on this. And I did go around and do a lot of exploring to find as many of those XP boards as you can. I believe the only one I have left in Australia or on this map is out over the 12 Apostles, and I can't remember if I got them all up it. I have been up to Blizzard Mountain, whatever they call it. My personal opinion is it's a bit too busy up there. You know, I'm not super into, you know, trying to avoid everybody, but let's already got that pretty much. Let me see. Tell you what, it's built into, you know, you have your garage, have your auction house, which currently I can't auction anything because they limit you to so many auctions a day. I don't know why. I can buy stuff, but I can't sell anything. Auto show is like your car dealership, and right now what I'm looking for is possibly an older car that I don't have yet. I had a Chevelle, but like an idiot I sold it. We could try and do a Z. Could try and do this one. I had a 67 Corvette too, but most of the cars that I build just for fun, and then when I get bored with them I auction them off and lose and lose a lot of money. But let's 495, and this one is a 527. You know what? Let's do this. I'm going to see, when you first click on it, what it's going to do is it's going to show you a lot of designs down in this general area that players have made. I'm not really into a lot of them. Every once in a while I'll see one, especially if I'm looking for older race livery, stuff like that. But if you just say, you hit 4 on your keyboard and then you hit Y and it goes to the factory colors. Now, factory colors, I knew a girl who owned one See, they kind of got the colors off because it was halfway between this and halfway between this. When you look at this color out in the sunlight, it looks yellow, but this one looks... Oh, shit. You can always... You know, this is your classic orange grabber type red. I'm particular to this one. Just because I have a history with a car just like that. She had one like this, but it had this split front bumper. It was a 1970 and a half. But anyway, this car is, if you look up here, it's 53,000 credits, or if you have tokens. Tokens, what you can do is you can go to the Microsoft Store and you can buy them. I think you can buy them online, but from the game, but it doesn't work for me. But they're not a bad deal. I had a lot at one time, but then I said, you know what? I spent enough money on this game. I don't need to spend any more. Actually, my wife said that. She's out of the room, so. Anyway, they'll show you, oh, look at this, it's your new car. Your new old car. Now, this is like the quick updater thing. What I usually do is I'll hit back and I'll go back to the garage and I'll go to upgrades. Now, you'll see there's a little one down in the corner here of body kit presets. Somebody's made a dragster like, you know, setup. I don't want that. So you go to custom upgrade, and this is basically how I do it. You can do it however you want. First thing I do is I look at what I can do to the actual body itself. It's nice to have an adjustable spoiler on these cars, especially if you want them to go fast. It'll help keep them on the road, but some of them are kind of stupid, like this one. It kind of ruins the lines on the car. To me it does. But, you know, it's almost a necessity. So for now, I'm going to put it on there. I may take it off later. That's one of the cool things. The hood, you can go with like your cowl hood, your dragster scoop, or you can sit there with a dorky looking blower and whatever they call that thing sticking out the top. Yeah, I like them on older cars. This car I want to keep looking fairly stock. So we're done with that, so we'll go back. And the most expensive part is the engine, so we're going to leave that for the end. Brakes, you need good brakes. I usually go the adjustable race suspension. You can raise and lower it as you please. Everything else is race. I do put a roll cage in because I believe it does help a little bit in the overall twistability of the car, and they have the weight reduction thing. Okay, drivetrain. Put in the best clutch. If you want to be historically correct, you'll either go with the stock or the street, or I believe the sport transmission is. Well, actually, this car came with a 4-speed, but we're kind of doing the resto mod, so we're going to put the 6-speed in. We'll put the carbon fiber drive shaft, and we'll put the two-way dip in it. Tires, there's another thing. Go with the best tires. Since this is going to be like a street racer, you want to go, this is kind of like, you know, it's personal preference. You know, I like to put the widest tires I can without looking ludicrous, you know. I'll try the 265s for a second, and I'll get into something else in a minute. I usually don't change the wheels. I personally like the style of these wheels, but you can change the size of the wheels, and that is beneficial because it will change the overall sidewall aspect ratio of the tire. It make the car look a little strange, but you know, it's going to keep it from rolling around on a fat tire. We got 18s on both sides, front and back. We can get out of that. Little trick, if you want to see like how it looks comparison wise, you can just go to the wheel selection icon and get a decent idea. You know, sometimes, you know, you can go too far and it looks like you got a rubber band wrapped around a wheel, and I know that's, you know, popular in the drift culture and stuff. I'm actually looking at these right now and I'm thinking they might be a little too thin. Like I said, there's a fine line between looking good and operating well. If I look at it now, it looks a little more, you know, like, I'm happy with that. Like I said, it's a personal preference. Do what you want. We got tires, drivetrain, suspension, and brakes. Here come the more expensive bits. You're gonna get into all this air cleaner. We'll go with the race air cleaner. I don't touch this yet because I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the aspiration. Most of these cars you can either put a supercharger or a turbocharger on. I know it's not 100% correct. I know this car did not come with multiple carburetors, but I suppose you could if you wanted to. The original car of this car came with a 396, I believe, and it had a 600 CFM carburetor or something like that. You know, I'm just trying to bump up the power. Ignition wise, race ignition, gotta have the big mufflers on it, the exhaust. Go with the race cam. Might as well go with the race valves. This is the engine block, and you know what? You kind of have to guess with some of these because they don't really tell you what exactly, you know, what are they doing? Are they boring out the cylinders? Is it just a lighter block? I don't know. It doesn't tell you. So, but it does tell you how much horsepower you get out of it. And given the fact that I want to get this up to around at least above 700, I know it sounds crazy, but anything lower and you're going to be watching a lot of tail lights. So pistons, obviously, you know, better rings and stuff, compression, blah blah blah. Oil cooler, definitely. Flywheel, cannot express the importance of having a lighter flywheel. Okay, we've gone through the engine, the brake suspension, the driveline, the tires, the aerodynamics. Now this is like the conversion section. If I want to get crazy and I want to put a V10 or a V12 in this thing, they'll let you do it. If you want to put a 6.2 liter V8 in it, which is like a 400 cubic inch, which is close to the 396, but as you see, you lose power because you just lost all of your add-ons. Personally, I just keep the stock powertrain. Now, if you look, trying to get my pointer back. If you look up here, this is a very important number and a very important combination of letters and numbers. Okay, the number you want to go for is 900. 900 will put you in the upper class, which basically means you have a fast enough car to compete with pretty much anything. Once again, you know, I guess putting turbos and superchargers on things is pretty common these days. Last time I had this car, I put a supercharger on it because I wanted to be more period correct. But I am going to try and put the turbochargers. Now, this is just the base dual turbochargers. If you get out of that and you come back to the engine, you will notice that now you have two new categories. Your twin turbo, where you can ramp it up to 115 more horsepower, and the intercooler. Get that. And I think that's pretty much it. I know we talked about the brakes and suspension. We've done the driveline, the tires, the aerodynamics. Like I said, that's the first time I put that back wing on there, and I'm still looking at it and I'm thinking, my God, that looks ridiculous. But I know it's going to help keep this car on the road when I'm going about 160. So I'm going to try it out and see if it does make a difference. If it doesn't, then I'll change it. But up here, it's your total cost. That's right, $77,500. Bear that cost in mind when you go to auction this car if you don't want it anymore. Don't just put it up for what they put. You know, they give you a baseline, you know, their number, what they think the car is worth. Well, I spent, what was it, 50 grand on the car, plus 77 and a half. You know, I'm looking at over $100,000 investment here. So, you know, remember that. Sometimes I write it down, but I'll remember this. And plus, we didn't hit that magic 900 number. Sometimes in the older cars, it's just impossible. Unless you, you know, I don't know. Some of them you can get really close, but 873 is still a pretty respectable number. If you do the gearing right, which I'm going to show you, you back out of this like you're going to go away, and they'll say install setup, or abandon setup, or continue working. Let's install it. Let's buy it with the credits that I have. save the content for you. And we back out of this. And we've already done more or less the design and paints. So we're going to go down to the tuning. Alright, tire pressure, that's, once again, that's personal preference. I know if you just plan on doing like drag racing and stuff, you want to lower the back tire pressure so you get more grip. But if you lower the back tire pressure when you're doing street racing, you go around a corner and it tends to roll around on its carcass. So I like to put it up to 32. In this weather, you could put it up to 34. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try 34. I imagine these are high pressure tires, so I don't think it's going to kill them. Alright, transmission wise, like I said, we went with the 6-speed manual, which is, I tend to do this because I'm OCD a little bit. But final drive, you want to look at final drive. Just because it says over here top speed 205 does not mean that you are going to hit 205. Probably don't even want to hit 205 in this car. What I would normally do is I would start out with what the car came with was probably a 373 rear end. It all comes down to whether you want to shift this thing like it's a semi-truck, like every 2 seconds. You can jack it up to 410 or 456, whatever you want, but it's not going to be a big difference. You know, it's just, you'll end up shifting a lot more. So let's look at that. Alright, alignment. In the front, I usually do a -5 offset for the camber. Trying to stick true to the basic build concept of this car. It had a solid rear axle. I know that they could shim it or whatever, but mostly I leave that at 0. I don't mess with toe, but I do mess with caster. For those of you that are not familiar with caster, it's kind of like, I don't know. There's a description over here. Sorry. It talks about it. It basically like leans back the vertical axis of the steering, making it easier for the car to turn. Too much I've noticed that too much and the suspension just can't handle it. The guys that drift, they'll crank it all the way up, but that's not me. I like to keep it about 4.5 to 4. I'm going to try 4.5. The roll bars, think about it this way. You have a big heavy engine in front, so you want, let's say, I'll start out with a conservative 32. The one thing you want to take away from this is don't make it the same as, don't make the rear the same as the front. You always want a little bit less. You know, I was talking to my wife earlier, trying to explain to her about weight transfer of the rear end when you're going around corners. You know, there's a fine line between letting the body roll enough to use the suspension or not letting it roll enough, and then all the stress is put on the tires, and the tires break loose. But if the body, if the body rolls too much, then obviously the tires are going to break loose in the same, you get what I'm saying. Springs, same thing. You got a lot of weight in the front, maybe not a lot of weight in the back. I'm going to bring these back down to about 1200. As close to 1200 as it will allow me to do so. The rear ones are the ones you got to play around with. Tell you what, we're going to go with 1000. Now, you may get out there and you may find that this car is uncontrollable. That's when you got to bring it back in. Actually, I'm going to go with 1050. Change my mind. Okay, ride height is another thing. The lower the center of gravity of the car, the better the car is going to handle. However, if you put it too low, your suspension's going to bottom out. So, I'm going to leave it at 6 for now. We'll see how it looks, and I'll show you how I do my little test. Shocks, rebound, stiffness is how quickly the shock will decompress and try to put the spring back into the normal position, I guess is the best way to tell you. Once again, you stick to the same thing. A lot of weight in the front, not a lot of weight in the back. Bump stiffness is how when you're driving a car, how hard you feel the bumps. That was a stupid way of saying it, but I don't know any other way to put it. Bump stiffness is like, if you have adjustable shocks, it's a valve inside. I'm getting into all sorts of brain surgery that I really don't know anything about, and I'm not even going to try to act like I know what I'm talking about. I've just found the numbers that work for me. If when I was working as a mechanic, I didn't deal too much with shocks. We just knew that more expensive shock, the better it was. Sorry, this was before adjustable shocks and little dials and knobs inside your car that could make you change that was unheard of back then. Downforce, like I said, we put the stupid spoiler on the back. I don't want to. Yeah, it's stupid. Look at it. You'll see. It really ruins the lines of the car. They actually did sell this model of car without that rear wing, that body colored rear wing, but it was like you can correct me if I'm wrong, it was the 6-cylinder model. I believe they called it a Berlinetta or something. I don't know. Once again, I'm talking out of my ass like I know what I'm talking about. Brake force, I like to keep it at 40% and the pressure at 100. Differential, okay, here's where we get into some numbers. Acceleration wise, basically this number is how quickly the differential is going to lock up both tires. If you put it too high, you're going to have trouble going around tight corners. Alright? My general rule is 60-40. Okay? I'll get into the 40 now. Deceleration. Too high of a setting, if you're on a wet surface, a slick surface, or when you're in dirt a lot of the times, this is when you let off the throttle and the engine does a lot of braking. The rear end's going to lock up and you're not going to have any control over the rear end. So I usually bring this down to about 40. It's nice to have a little bit, but you know, unless you're tuning like a 4x4, you don't want a lot. You know, when I tune my 4x4s, I put the decel at 100, because then if I'm going down a hill or something, I can use the engine for braking, and that's a whole nother story. So we are done. We're going to hit 1, which is A on this one. Apply. Yes. And we're going to put it outside. And I think it's nighttime out. No, it's daytime. So this is the car. Switch views. And we're going to look at this side. One thing I look at is I want to make sure that the tires aren't stuck too much underneath the fenders, because then that's going to tell me that it's way too low. It looks pretty good. We're going to take it out. Let's see how it handles. Race anybody unless I see the magic one, the guy with the circle around, which I'll get into later.
100 yards, turn left. In 100 yards, turn right.
That was close. I'm gonna head back. Overall, I'm pretty happy with that setup. It sticks to the ground pretty good. So, but once again, I felt a little bit of oversteer. So, I'll tighten this up, maybe to 31. That. Back out. One of the good things about the Forza Horizon, if you ever want to go back to like just the stock setup, obviously, you can go in there and take parts off, and they will be available for you to put back on later if you want to go back to the original or what you have. So if you just want to, put it back to stock and take it out, see what the belt was driving the car when it came out of the factory. I do that sometimes.
bucket list challenge to complete nearby. Would you like me to set a route there for you?
I like the sound of the car when it's just idling. I have no idea where I'm at. I know I'm in the city. Anna? Set route to nearest festival.
Okay, setting your route to the nearest festival site. In 100 yards, keep right. In 100 yards, keep right. In 200 yards, turn left. Turn left.
People drive like maniacs.
In 400 yards, bear left.
I know they're just driving tired.
Keep left.
See, I remember in the crew, it was actually all fire.
In 400 yards,
All
turn
live,
right.
but here,
Turn right. In 400 yards, bear left. Keep left. In 400 yards, bear left. Keep left. In 400 yards, bear left. Keep left. In 400 yards, turn left. Turn left. In 200 yards, you will arrive at your destination. have arrived at your destination.
Kind of missing in action for a few weeks, but I'll try to start getting back into doing some more of this. So until next time, so long.